Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. We would like to commend you for making the time to study Tanya. It's wonderful. The more I think about it, the more excited I am. And God willing, next week we're going to meet again. In 2 weeks, we will be celebrating Rosh Hashanah on Monday night, so we won't be meeting. I would like to go back to a few lines so we have refreshed our memory. Also, I want to just go over what we have studied so far. We have discovered that a person, before he's being sent to the universe, is taking an oath. He swears to be righteous and not be wicked. The discussion was who is the one exactly is taking the oath, and simply the explanation is that it's the godly soul. The rabbi asked 2 questions. First, we are told that in the Mishnah that you always consider yourself as a wicked person, because if you think that you're a righteous man and the entire universe tells you that you are righteous, consider yourself as a wicked man. Otherwise, you won't be busy studying Torah and serving God. The second question is, if you are told to be wicked, it will make a person not want to serve God and not want to live a good life, because it brings depression. It brings the person down. How dare the Mishnah tells us that even if the entire universe tells you you are righteous, consider yourself a wicked. We began to the discussion of 5 levels of a human. And that's where I want to read again from the text, as we'll go in further into the details of the 5 levels. We are on page 35 in the lessons in Tanya. However, the above matter will be more clearly understood after a preliminary discussion of the true meaning of righteous and wicked. Usually, people are put into 2 categories, either wicked people or very righteous people. Says the Rabbi, we find in the Gemara 5 distinct types. It's the rabbi is using we find in the Gemara, not the Gemara teaches us, because they are all never you will find all 5 in one continuous text. They are found in 2 categories, one place, another 2 categories in another place, and the 5th one in a 3rd place. A righteous man who prospers materially as well as spiritually, he knows only good. A righteous man who suffers in both material as well as spiritual sense. Spiritually, he has not yet vanquished all his evil, and in the material sense too, he's wanting. The Talmud teaches there are 2 levels of righteous. There can be we're going to call it a righteous who prospers, can be referring to spiritual and material. He prospers, meaning he's blessed, he has all the money and all the health and all the happiness he needs. Who prospers also means that he's very well connected to God in a complete level. Then you have another level of righteous who suffers physically in this universe. He cannot make ends meet. He always have to chase doctors. He's always having fights with siblings, with partners, with spouse, etc. Or a righteous who suffers, referring to he suffers in his relationship to God. He's not completely bonding and connected to God. Something is missing. Then you have 2 more. A wicked man in whom there is some good and who prospers. A wicked man who suffers spiritually and materially. And number 5, an intermediate man, the Beinoni. Let's talk about the wicked. He's called a wicked. Why is he called a wicked? Simply because his behavior is a wicked behavior. He misbehaves. You have one wicked whose life is good. Good meaning materially he's very successful, even though he cheats and he lies and he does not follow law and order or God. He's a very happy man. Then you have a wicked man who suffers. He does not behave, but he also suffers a lot. People don't like him. He is failing in his business ventures. Anytime he gets into the stock market, it falls down. When you think it cannot get any worse, it plummets even farther. There are people whose luck, bad luck, always goes in front of them to make sure that they always suffer. So we have 4, and number 5 is the intermediate man, somewhere in the middle between the righteous and the wicked. Once he has achieved this level, physical suffering, no cleanse of the soul, to cleanse the soul from the impurities of sin is unnecessary. It therefore prospers materially as well. I'm sorry, I skipped some. The Gemara, I'm sorry, one paragraph above. The Gemara explains, the righteous man who prospers is the consummate, literally tzaddik. The Gemara says, you know what a righteous man who prospers means? Is a complete righteous who has completely connected to God without any part or iota that is separate from God. Once he achieved this level, physical suffering to cleanse the soul of sin is unnecessary. It therefore prospers materially. Once someone reaches a level of such bonding and connection to God, he has no financial or material suffering. He is blessed in every which way he wants. That's why it's called a complete righteous, or another name, a righteous man who is very good. We need to ask you, okay. Oh. The righteous man who suffers is the imperfect, literally incomplete tzaddik. He therefore experiences some measure of material suffering, thereby cleansing the soul while it is yet clothed in the body, so that he will not have to endure any spiritual suffering in the world to come. The second level, incomplete tzaddik, is a tzaddik who suffers. Why is he suffering? To cleanse the incompleteness of his connection to God. In other words, you have a righteous man who has done so well, all connected to God. There is nothing that he needs to fix. There is no fixing. And therefore, it's like you don't need to go to the laundry machine to put the outfit to be cleansed because it's all clean. But, and then you have a righteous man who suffers, is the incomplete righteous, and therefore he suffers to make up for that little missing part that is not complete. Herman?
Is there a very significant difference in between an incomplete tzaddik and a Benoni?
Huge. Huge. A world apart. As we'll get to it. That's not a Benoni. We call him righteous for a reason. However, he's incomplete. And as a result, he also suffers. We don't know about a Benoni if Benoni suffers. This is just a description of the Talmud about these categories. By the way, within the righteous and incomplete righteous, it's a very huge gap, as we'll discover. Accordingly, the Gemara is not referring to two tzaddikim on the same spiritual level, one of whom prospers while the other suffers. Rather, it speaks of two distinct levels of tzaddikim. It's not even stepping stone like a ladder where one step would lead to the other. It's two separate categories. Literally, you have a complete righteous on the one hand, and you have an incomplete on the other. There is no connection between the two. And much, much more so the Benoni comparing to the tzaddik. The Gemara thus cites only two characterizations regarding the tzaddik: consummate and imperfect, literally complete and incomplete. The terms who prospers and who suffers do not indicate his spiritual level. They merely describe his resultant material status. What the Rabbi is telling us is that it's not about his connection to God. His connection to God is complete. If he's a tzaddik, he is totally connected to God. However, one of them suffers, meaning something is missing. The other one is not suffering, meaning nothing is missing. But in essence, they are totally separate categories, as we'll discover. In Raya Me'emna is a part of the Zohar, the source of Kabbalah, Parshat Mishpatim, the portion of Mishpatim. It is explains that the righteous man who suffers is one whose evil nature is subservient to his good nature. You have a righteous man who's, I'm going to share a secret, who does not have any evil desire. That's righteous, who is complete, who is good. There is no suffering. He does not have to fight. He has no evil. Righteous man who suffers, he is a person who possesses evil. However, the evil is subservient. Is tied with a noose and does not cause trouble. So when he sees a drink that is forbidden, the doctor says, don't eat chocolate. Even though he knows how good it is, he will never got to do it because he's righteous. However, there is some type of a challenge, but the challenge is uneven. Uneven meaning the evil is so subservient that it's not a real match. Just a minute. A complete righteous wouldn't even have an issue because he doesn't understand why people are crazy about chocolate. He may as well let the sole of the shoe sole. It tastes the same for him. It's all the same. Yes, Sheila.
I was just going to bring up the question of standards. Not everybody has the same standards of measurement to measure people or not to.
You're right on target. Only God has sets the standards, and actually my standards is different than yours. It's a reality. There are several ways to address this. One is that there is one large framework by which we all must fit in. Within the framework, there is lots of fluctuation. Number two, as we will discover, you're making me spill all the details here that we'll discover later. There are many, many levels. So something for me that may be a challenge is not a challenge for you, right? Something that's a challenge for you may not be a challenge for me. Because that's what incomplete righteous come into place. An incomplete righteous is never, I believe, there will not be one similar. In other words, if I say that David is an incomplete righteous and Sheila is an incomplete righteous, your evil desire is on totally different levels. He might have one desire, you might have, just based on your gender, based on your upbringing, based on your knowledge, etc. We will discover, because it applies, it makes the makeup, the DNA of a human being in such a beautiful way that it enables us to grow and know how far we can reach, as we'll discover. So Raya Me'emna, which is part of the Zohar, teaches us that you know what an incomplete righteous means? Someone who is completely connected to God, someone who always obeys God. However, he has evil, and the evil is like a little puppy. It's not a bulldog. It's not a master. It's a little puppy that he says to him, stop barking. But there is no fear. He's never going to go bite on you. He's just going to bark. A righteous man, on the other hand, it's a huge bulldog that makes you do whatever they want. That's a wicked man. A righteous man will always do the right thing. Incomplete righteous has a little bit evil to contend with. However, there is no big Yetzer Hara. It's a Yetzer Hara. It's no big. And number two is always winning. He's always doing the right thing. However, these guys always, find the right moment to make it a little harder. He is a tzaddik who still retains some vestige of evil, albeit subservient to his good nature. Accordingly, a righteous man who prospers is a tzaddik in whom there is only good, since he is totally transformed his evil nature. We will discover something new the Rebbe is talking about, which is there is no such thing as evil. Complete evil does not exist. you have evil nature, you have evil inclination, you are able to convert it. And once you convert it, it gets you to heights that no other place you can reach without the evil. In other words, and that's part of the idea of a complete tzaddik, complete righteous man. What did he do? Is did not kill or destroy the evil, but converted the evil. Have you heard about training? I have a child who is very lazy, but once you train them, motivate them first by gifts, and then explain to them that their future, they will live much longer and much healthier if they do exercise at 6:45 every morning. Now they are motivated to do the exercise. So the desire to live long, the desire to live healthy suddenly makes them a much better person. Without that desire to live a good life, they wouldn't have put in the effort to get up much earlier and swim in the pool on a very freezing day. What happens is you have everything God created can be converted or can be utilized in a positive way. In the evil, it's much more powerful, as we'll discover. It comes from a much higher level, and it is concealed. All you need is a lot of effort to crack the shell and get to the essence, and then you can benefit greatly. By the way, in the universe, unfortunately, people don't pay attention. Fortunately, science proves everything that Tanya is talking about. For example, the best way to fight snake bite is what? Snake venom, right? You take the venom from the snake, the poison, and that's how you cure and make people live. The atomic power is a very destructive, we can call it evil, but not necessarily, because our life wouldn't be the same in medicine, in technology, in health, in myriads of ways, where nuclear power have advanced us in many, much greater. The unfortunate is when the evil forces get hold of it, they can bring unlimited destruction, and they can potentially destroy the entire universe. It doesn't mean that it's completely evil. It just needs to be nurtured in a certain way, and it takes a lot of power and a lot of energy. Let's go back to the righteous, complete righteous. A complete righteous takes the evil and turns it to be a tzaddik. It takes a barking dog and it turns him into a sheep, to a goat that does everything you tell it in a very, very nice way. And that's why he does not have a challenge. He's not challenged. He wants to do good. The evil is assisting him in doing the right thing and staying away, refraining from death. However, we are in the middle of the paragraph on page 36. The tzaddik who prospers is a tzaddik in whom there is only good. The evil within him having already been transformed to good. The tzaddik who suffers is a tzaddik of low stature, one who still harbors some evil. And therefore, to address Herman's point, you have a righteous man whose evil suddenly become a tzaddik, became positive. And you have a tzaddik who is incomplete, who suffers, meaning that his evil is still evil, except that there's no say. His vote don't count, but there is still evil. The complete righteous not only does not have evil, he turned evil into good. So he has two souls that are all positive. So it's such, as I said, it's not like stepping stone or a stepping ladder where you become a incomplete righteous, then you become a complete righteous. It's a two totally separate categories in separate buildings, separate universes. However, we must now understand why redundant titles are given to each of the tzaddik. Complete tzaddik and tzaddik who prospers. Incomplete tzaddik and tzaddik who suffers. If the complete tzaddik is the tzaddik who prospers, that is, in whom there is only good, and the incomplete tzaddik is the tzaddik who suffers, that is, retains a vestige of evil, why then it is necessary to give each tzaddik two appellations? The rabbi is asking, this is the rabbi who translated is bringing a side note. When the Gemara talks about these two levels of righteous, and the same is about the wicked, but we're going to talk about tzaddik now. Righteous men, we are told, you have complete righteous. You have righteous men and you have a righteous man who suffers, and a righteous man who completes. A righteous man who does not suffer, and a righteous man, I'm sorry, you have a righteous man who is complete righteous and he does not suffer. That's a second title. And then you have an incomplete righteous, and you have a righteous who suffers. Why do you have those two titles applied to each one of them? Says the Rabbi, the explanation provided further in chapter 10 is that each descriptive term denotes a specific aspect of the divine service of the term denotes the level of a service of the tzaddik's godly soul. That is, the tzaddik's love of God, for it is by virtue of his love, of this love, that he is called tzaddik. The complete tzaddik is he who has attained perfection in his love of God, in a matter of ahava b'ta'anugim, love of delights. We'll talk about it in a moment. The serene love of fulfillment. The tzaddik whose ahava b'ta'anugim is as yet imperfect is called the incomplete or unperfect tzaddik. The term tzaddik who prospers and tzaddik who suffers denotes a tzaddik status vis-a-vis his efforts in transforming his animal soul to holiness. For the tzaddik, through his lofty service of ahava b'ta'anugim, transforms the evil within him into holiness and good. The designation of tzaddik who prospers indicates that he has already totally transformed the evil within him, and now good alone remains. While the tzaddik who suffers is one who has not yet managed to totally transform the evil within him to good, a vestige of it still remains. Let me explain. First, I want to teach you something new in Kabbalah, because you study Kabbalah, you shouldn't say I never heard it. There are many levels of love. We are going to talk about love between God and us. It can be between a husband and wife. It can be between parents and children. We're going to talk about the highest level of love, although when you study those levels of love, you start from the beginning. The lowest one is I love somebody for what I get from it. It's called conditional love, but we're going to put it aside for now. Does anybody know the meaning of the word love? What does love means? What does love means? Anyone care to explain? Butterflies. All right. Anybody else? To care for somebody. So how? To
be devoted.
To be devoted. So how is it possible when I ask someone, why are you eating this, and it happened to be a chocolate? Says, because I love chocolate. Does it give you butterflies? So what's the idea of love? Anyone cares?
The idea is to be blind.
To be blind. Can you elaborate?
Well,
Love is blind.
people can be the opposites of the universe can be in love because they're in love. There's nothing to do with. It's nothing so feeling that this person has to be this and this person has to be that.
Very good. I like it. Anyone else? So let me elaborate on Dick's comment about love. What's the symbol, a flower that symbolizes love? Rose. Why rose is chosen? Because rose has also thorns and the flowers. When you say I love somebody, what you say is I accept you the way you are, and you don't need to change. As Dick put it in a different way, it's blunt. And that's why rose represent love, because nobody cares about the thorns. All we care is about the flower. When I say I love chocolate, the doctor told you don't eat chocolate because it's not healthy. You can't overcome the urge. Why? Because you love chocolate. So you see nothing negative about eating it. Same is about persons. When you say I love my spouse or my parents, Does it mean that they are perfect? Of course not. But for me, they are perfect. As soon as people start measuring what's in it for me and what does he or she bring to the table, that's not love. That's a business transaction. That's where you weigh the pluses and minuses and you make the total sum. You want to be part of it, to partner, to invest or not. Love, once there is love, that's why unto that shall we part. Because once we love somebody, true love is where there is no place to start measuring or calculating what did I get. There is one kind of love for God, we call it ahava beta'anugim, love of delight. Ta'anug in Hebrew is delight or pleasure. That's the word. It is the highest form of love. I'm going to talk about God, our relationship to God. I'm not going to talk about humans. There is a gift that not everybody can reach, where they are so connected to God and so much in love with God that they have the pleasure, physical pleasure for being in God's presence. What does that mean? It means that no matter what God gives them, throws at them, or is expecting from them, they will always do it with great, great love. It doesn't matter what challenge. It doesn't matter what I was blessed with, or it doesn't matter what the answer is, yes or no. I am connected with God. I have the ability, I have the gift or the gift that God gave me to bond with him. And therefore there is nothing greater than that. Nothing compares, nothing is important. That's what we call ahava beta'anugim, love of the light. As I said, everything I shared with you applies to spouses and children and parents. And there are moments that's the way we feel. When someone gets married, assuming today in today's world, people get married for different reasons. But assuming they get married to the right spouse for the right reason, the wedding night, when they express their love is so high, that's what ahava beta'anugim, that's what love of delight is. Now imagine someone feels towards God like that every single day, every single night. This is a ecstasy, literally. Says the rabbi that you have a complete righteous. You know why he does not suffer? Because his bond with God is ahava beta'anugim. It's love of delight. And therefore, no matter what God does, slaps him, hurts him, throws him out the door to all the staircase, it doesn't matter. He is in ecstasy. He's in connected to God. That's why one time the Talmud calls it a complete righteous. Another time the Talmud calls us a righteous man who prospers, meaning there is no suffering, there is no challenge. Really? This man has might and probably has challenges greater than many people, but they have no place because he's in ecstasy, he's very excited. Then you have just a man, incomplete righteous. What is incomplete righteous mean? He did not get rid of the evil inclination. He still have desires to misbehave. Therefore, there is no love of the light. There is no ahava beta'anugim. And therefore, he suffers because his relationship is measured. Is it good for me? Are you going to do what I'm expecting? Are you going to deliver any promises? If you don't, it hurts me. Why did you do it? I have to reconsider. Let me rethink. Maybe I should also hold back. Maybe I need to take a break. In other words, the challenge comes here when there is no complete bond. Therefore, says that's what the commentary explains. And as in chapter 10, the Rabbi will elaborate in further details. When you have two levels of righteous, you have a complete and incomplete righteous. You also have a righteous who does not suffer and who prospers, and you have a righteous man who does suffer. Why? Because the one who is complete righteous, meaning he has surrendered to God and he has developed the love of the light. And therefore, nothing causes him any pain or suffering. The other person, on the other hand, does suffer. At the end of the day, the righteous man is very close to God, but he does have suffering. And therefore, the evil is still around. Leon, was it? Leon, did you raise your hand?
I just want to make sure I'm saying it correctly. Are we saying love of delight?
Yes,
Delightful?
yes. No, delight.
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 And then another question that comes to mind is, can an imperfect tzaddik become a perfect tzaddik?
What do you think? Of course, what do you think? So how many this tonight I mentioned that there are two, they are not, it's not a stepping stone, it's not a stepping ladder. Actually, as we'll discover, it cannot. It will never. It's totally separate categories, different beasts. Can a tiger become a lion? A liger, right?
But that's what I think, you can't.
You cannot,
This
yes.
is the hamster wheel you're on.
No, it's not a hamster wheel. It's once you know where you are and you understand the pluses and minuses, you stick with the program. And that makes you perfect. And that comes out in the Benoni, as we'll discover. But I want to take it one step further. When it comes to relationship, in relationship, people can be in love, but they can reach a little bit higher where nothing else bothers them anymore. It doesn't bother me that she promised or he promised because I'm in love. And that bond, anytime it's being shaken by a neighbor, by a friend, you look at them and you say, that's not the relationship we have. And therefore, it doesn't matter if I get more or I put more because we have the bond. Do you understand that? I'm going on a thin line, but we will, as we'll discover, that everything we speak about is between us and God, but it's between us and a spouse and children and parents and friends. As we'll see, there are many, many parts. Yes. Didn't you ask that last time?
I don't know, did it?
Harman, did you ask? Somebody asked me about that. Ali, Ali, you asked?
No. What was the question? Are they really individually having?
You asked that. So the answer is, in this chapter, we're going to read the answer. There are, but there are very few. Because they have a task. As we'll discover, don't try to be who you are not. Know your limitations. Know how far you're supposed to go and just be there. If you do that, you are as great as the complete righteous. But we will develop it slowly, but it's in this chapter. So again, each one of the righteous, two categories of righteous, you have a complete righteous, you also call the righteous who don't suffer. Another righteous is the incomplete righteous, but we call him the one who suffers. The commentators explain that the reason is because the one who is a complete righteous has love of delight, and therefore there is no suffering. Therefore, there is no desire to challenge, to fight, to misbehave. The other one, incomplete righteous, is a righteous man. He's very close to God. He's bonding with God. But that part is lacking, and therefore he suffers. He has the evil to contend with, and he has to put up with the desire not to behave. The
time the soul is selected for a particular
You're asking a question, I didn't hear the first one. The answer is yes.
decision whether or not to get to
Yes.
righteous man.
You, as we,
Is that
I'm sharing,
to the soul at the time the soul is dead?
I am correct. I'm sharing with you what we're going to discover. The answer is yes. We are getting there one step at a time. We'll discover that this is something actually beyond our control, and you have no choice.
The wicked person would be the best wicked person.
I like it. If you are a wicked person, you can become a Benoni.
exposed.
But you cannot become a righteous if you're not.
You need a good pair of boxing gloves, because every day you have to take the rest of it,
Big time.
pop them in the kisser right through the window.
Big time. The explanations that follow make it abundantly clear that the evil referred to here is no more than an amorphous evil still harbored in the heart of the incomplete tzaddik. For the tzaddik has no association with actual evil that manifests itself in thought or speech, and most certainly not with the evil that finds expression in actions. Righteous men will not do wrong, will not talk about wrong, will not think of doing wrong behavior. What does it mean, incomplete righteous? There is still a little bit evil. How it has expressed itself? It does not. However, I can find out because the man does not have a love of delight in God. It is because he suffers. He is lacking because the evil is still there. But looking at those two, the way they think, the way they speak, and act, definitely the way they act, are all the same. There is no difference. In the Gemara, end of chapter 9 of Brachot, it is stated that the righteous are judged, that is motivated and ruled by their good nature. The good nature having the final say. The wicked are judged, that is motivated and ruled by their evil nature. The evil nature having the final say. And intermediate men are judged by both the good and evil nature. Did you understand? This should be a clear, straightforward. The Gemara tells us, righteous men are judged, meaning are ruled by the godly soul. Wicked men are ruled by evil soul. Benoni, the intermediary, both of them are ruling. This is a total dichotomy. There is constant fight between who is going to rule, the godly or the evil. Rabbi, a famous rabbi, declared, I, for example, am a Benoni. Said Abaye, Abaye was his disciple, his student, to him. Master, you make it impossible for any creature to live. He says to his master, I don't understand, you say you are a Benoni? If you're a Benoni, we are all wicked people. Abaye, here is the commentary. Abaye argued thus, if you're a Benoni, then all those in a lower level than you fall into the category of the wicked, concerning whom the sages, our sages say, the wicked, even while alive, are considered dead. By calling yourself a Benoni, you thus make it impossible for anyone to live. You make us all wicked. Wicked people have no right to live. And therefore, how can you call yourself a Benoni? We don't know. We don't have what the master and responded. Let me tell you what the master responded, because later on we'll see how it fits with the answer. His master told them, nobody knows what's in the heart of his fellow. How do you know if I'm righteous or not? If I'm righteous or not, right? And that was his answer. In other words, we will discover that the difference between Benoni and righteous are only in the heart, not in action. Let's continue. To understand all the aforesaid clearly, an explanation is called for. In addition to the question which will soon follow, that according to the common conception of Benoni, as a person having half mitzvot and half transgressions, how could a great sage like Rabbi mistake himself for a Benoni? A further question is implied. The Rabbi is saying, the first question you don't understand, how is it possible that Rabbi, a righteous leader of his time, consider himself a Benoni? If he's a Benoni, who is righteous? It's impossible. That's number one. Question number two, the Rabbi is going to ask, and addressing Sheila's comment, and also to understand the statement of Job. Job said the following, God, Lord of the universe, you have created righteous men and you have created wicked men. For it does not decree which person is to be righteous and wicked. the Gemara, as the commentary explained, the Gemara relates that God decrees that a child about to be born will be wise or foolish, strong or weak, and so on, rich or poor, etc. However, whether the child will be righteous or wicked, God does not say. This is not predetermined. Rather, it is left to the individual free choice. So the rabbi is asking another question. Job. There is a book of Job, a story of a man who was very wealthy, very happy, very well-to-do, and he lost everything. When he prays to God, he says, God, you have created wicked men, you have created righteous men, and why are you putting me in a certain category? How is it possible that he says you created righteous or you created wicked? God did not create righteous. God did not create wicked men. God created rich men. God created smart men. But God does not create righteous or wicked. It is my choice, your choice. God will never decide except the person himself.
So, if different for the individual's free choice, then why can't he?
Right, that
Attain.
the complete. That's the question the rabbi is asking. Is it possible? But he's basing it, very good. Thank God. But the point is that Job already stated, and it's part of the Bible, that God created righteous and wicked. What do you mean God creates righteous and wicked? God does not create. I create righteous and wicked based on my behavior. You are not God. God created smart people. God created rich people. God created male, female. God created. The Talmud goes on to list good looking, not good looking. The Talmud created so that the angels are putting the parts. You know, it's like a moving bell. This guy is smart. Let's dump him another 90 IQs. This guy is going to be very rich. Let's put it in his mind to make the right choices and not take too much. In other words, there is all this predetermined. Who are we going to marry? Who are our parents? Who are our children? Which country we're going to live? Everything is predestined. We think that by putting beauty creams, we're going to have a beauty good looking. It's not true. It's all up in heaven already decreed, and God has decided. One thing God does not decide, whether I'm going to be wicked or righteous. This is something the entire universe is lacking. And when people talk about free choice, by the way, free choice, we have free choice. It's not about choosing for breakfast. What am I going to choose from the menu? Because the cows and the dolphins also have free choice. The dolphin can choose to chase after a big fish or a small fish. The cow can decide to graze on one side of the grass or cross the street and graze on another part. That's not free choice. Free choice, as discussed in Jewish thought, is about to commit a sin, to transgress God, or to do a mitzvah, to obey God. That's free choice. That's the only thing. So that's the second question. The first question is, how dare Rabbi said that he's a Benoni, as Abaye confronted him, everybody is wicked. Second question is, how is it possible? What's going on with the righteous and wicked? On one hand, Job says you created them. On the other hand, we are told in the Talmud, there is a list of features that every human being is created with, and it's not up to them. Except righteous and wickedness, it's not up to God. God will not say this is righteous, this is wicked. He will never say that. It is up to the human. Here is another third question, and this is to me the most powerful question of all. How then are we to understand Job's plaint, you have created righteous men and you have created wicked men? Now the third question. We must also understand the essential nature, mahut, the essence of the rank of the Benoni. The Benoni, this is the book. Now we need to understand what is a Benoni. The mahut of a tzaddik, the essential essence of a tzaddik is righteousness. The mahut of a wicked man is evil. What is the mahut and the essential nature of a Benoni? He is certainly, says the rabbi, not one whose deeds are half virtuous and half sinful. For if this were so, how could Rabbi err in classifying himself as a Benoni? We all know that Rabbi erred. The question is how big of a mistake was done. If you tell me that a Benoni is someone who 50-50, as I asked you, I believe the first lesson, what is a righteous? Mostly good, wicked, mostly bad, right? So the essence of a righteous is good behavior. The essence of a wicked is mostly bad behavior. What's a Benoni? 50-50. In the morning, he shouts on his wife, and in the evening, he gives her flour and he makes up for it. He is providing, but he has no time to spend with her. This is 50-50. He serves God on Shabbat, and on weekdays, he eats straight. He does, half and half. Says the Rabbi, the first question is it possible for Rabbi to say that half of his life is sin? It doesn't make sense. That it's impossible for Rabbi who declared that he's a Benoni, that the category of Benoni you're talking about. Number two. No, in addition, says the Rabbi, when it is known that his mouth never ceased studying the Torah, so much so that even the angel of death had no dominion over him. There is a story in the Talmud. The time came for Rabbi to go away from this universe. The angel of death came to take him. The angel of death has no control over people who study Torah while they study Torah. It's impossible. They cannot take their life. But you have to be extremely righteous for him not to find you when he wants to take you while you study Torah. And he was unable to. He came back to heavens. And he said, I waited for 2 days, and the rabbi don't stop studying. Every given moment possible for his life, he was studying Torah. When he needed to eat, if majority of his time he does good, he's considered serving God. If he needed to go to sleep or socialize with his wife, as long as the rest of the day was filled with good, he was a complete righteous man, complete behaving. The angel of death had no control of him. You know what they did to him? A similar story happened with other rabbis. The angel went onto a palm tree. It was in those days, they had no air conditioner. So the windows were open. If the windows are open, when there is shouts or noise coming out from the street, you can hear it. The angel of death went on a palm tree and started shaking very heavily the branches. And Rabbi says there must be a thief standing on top of the tree, watching, looking into the house to see if nobody is here. Let me go and check on him. And he walked out, and he slipped one step broke, or he slipped, and he fell and died. That's how he died. In other words, the angel of death needed to trick him to take him. Now, if you say that Benoni is someone whose half behavior is evil, that definitely is not the person we're talking about. Yet Rabbi mistakenly said he's a Benoni. He says, I am an example of a Benoni. That's not possible. We're talking about a very lofty man who has never had an ability or an opportunity to do evil, to misbehave. And yet he calls himself a Benoni. That's the next question. Here is another question. How? Such was Rabbi's diligence that he did not neglect his study for even one moment. Qualitatively, too, his learning was on such high a plane that the angel of death was unable to overpower him. By the way, I just want to give you a piece of information. The reason they needed him is because he was the only one to rule an argument between God and the heavenly court. There was a dispute. I'm not going to show it to you what it is about because it will take another hour and a half. I'm not exaggerating. There was a debate about, God set the rules. He said that leprosy, if at 2 white hairs, makes it leprosy. But what if the hair comes before the spot on the skin? There has to be the skin turned white and then the hair grows. I'm just giving you not even the debate. There was a debate about a scenario Was it kosher, pure, or impure? God said it's pure, and the heavenly court disagree with God, and they said it's impure. I'm not going to discuss about heavenly court arguing with God. How is it possible? But it appears in Jewish tradition numerous places. And they said we need someone to rule. Who is the one to rule? Rabbi. He's the only one in the universe who had such proficiency in leprosy that he would be able to tell you what God desired when he created that law. In other words, even God himself, the heavenly court were arguing that God did not intend it to be in a certain way. So therefore they say, let's bring him up. And that's when they sent the angel of death, and it took him 2 days to be able to trick Rabbi and then get him. So we see we're talking about a characteristic that's a very, very special, and it's impossible to apply that a Benoni is someone who possesses half good and half evil. That is so far from Rabbi like that day and night. How then could he err in considering that half his deeds were sinful, God forbid? It doesn't make sense. Furthermore, and here is the question that I love the most. Furthermore, when can a person be considered a Benoni? The Rabbi says there is no scenario of a human being to be considered a Benoni. It's impossible virtually in life. It's not possible. Why? For at the time one sins, until he repents, he is deemed completely wicked. And if he was sinful and then repented, thus ceasing to be wicked, he is deemed a completely righteous. The Rabbi said, I don't understand, what is the Benoni, 50-50? There's no such thing as 50-50. If I have transgressed one sin, the Torah calls the man wicked. If I repented, I have to say, God, please forgive me. I stole money from somebody. I paid. I said, please forgive me. And there is no other sin I committed. I'm a righteous man. It is clearly in the Talmud based on the Bible. There is no middle ground. There is no such thing as half good, half evil, and middle. There is no such thing. In other words, and again, this can require a lot of discussion. Compromise does not exist in the Torah. There is no such thing as compromise. Compromise does not lead anywhere. In our generation, the 60s, it was the movement of the hippies who embodied extreme because in a positive way, because they defied compromise. They wouldn't do something because everybody else expects you. They wouldn't be dressed or sing or live a certain lifestyle just because my parents did, or that's what my parents want. How I feel is how I'm projecting and behaving myself. And the Rabbi at the time said that the greatest potential of the human is coming out in this youth. We just need to channel it in the right direction. And this is what the Rabbi is talking about. In reality, you won't find a Benoni in the categories of humanity. Because in the eyes of God, if I go to bed and I say, God forgive me, and wholeheartedly I mean, God forgive me, and I regret, and I take upon myself not to repeat the line cheating, non-kosher, whatever, and I ask forgiveness from everybody, I'm a complete righteous man. In the morning, I yelled at my wife, I committed a sin, now, bam, I'm back in the basement from the penthouse. I'm in a dark place, I'm a wicked man. One sin is a wicked, or no sins is a righteous. You don't have an intermediary. There is no such thing, says the Rabbi. Because as soon as you have a little bit, you are in the category of wicked. As soon as you have nothing, you're complete righteous. There is no in between. There is no dawn time or in between sunset and sunrise or sunset and darkness. There is no such thing. You either on one side or the other side. You can say, well, maybe I sinned, but I'm not happy with it. So I won't do it again. But as long as there is no forgiveness, there is no repentance, I'm still a wicked. If there is repentance, I'm a complete righteous. That's why on Yom Kippur, we're dressed like angels, white, because hopefully we ask forgiveness, God forgave us. Hopefully we atone all our sins against other human beings. Now we are righteous people. We are all completely righteous like angels. There is no Benoni, no day or night possible to have a Benoni. And the rabbi goes on to say, even he who violates a minor prohibition of the rabbis is termed wicked, as is stated in Yevamot, Talmud chapter 2, and in Nida chapter 1. In other words, there are some laws that the rabbis added. Hanukkah, Purim, Muktzah, and Shabbat. There are many. By the way, most of what we do or don't do is rabbinic. You can say, well, maybe a Benoni is someone who does not transgress God's commandments, but does not follow rabbinic commandments. It's not true, because the Talmud teaches us in two places that transgressing rabbinic commandments is worse. The punishment is harsher than someone who transgress Torah decree. And therefore, it cannot be accommodating for a Benoni. Not only that, the Talmud tells us that a wicked man is someone who never sinned, but had an opportunity to protest when someone else sinned and he refrained. That's wicked here. Moreover, even he who himself does not sin, but has the opportunity to forewarn another against sinning and fail to do so, is termed wicked. So people say to me, you're a tzaddik. About me, that I'm a righteous man. I'm laughing at them. I say, even if I did all the right thing all the time, just standing outside to criticize and protest against people for not keeping Shabbat or not keeping kosher makes me wicked. I did not. Huh? Just ask your kids. That's it. That's even better. So, no, but later on they mature, they develop new skills, and they see their parents. Back to our discussion. Not only one sin makes us wicked, even if we have not one sin, but we see someone and we refrain from protesting, is considered is called like wicked. So when do you have a Benoni? Where do you have the intermediary? All the more so, he who neglects any positive law which is able to fulfill. For instance, whoever is able to study Torah and does not do so, to whom our sages have applied the verse, because he has despised the word of the Lord, the Torah, studying Torah, that soul shall be utterly cut off. Someone who has an ability to study Torah and instead he watches a movie, or just eating food, desserts, and enjoying life without any purpose, is considered someone who cut himself out of God because he has to study Torah every given moment. I'm guilty of it all day. And therefore, so don't wonder about yourself, everybody. So when do you have a Benoni? Where is a Benoni coming to place? There is no such thing as seemingly. It is thus plain that such a person is called wicked, more so than he who violates the prohibition of the sages. In other words, he had the ability to study Torah. He didn't sin. He just did not spend time in a quality way. Instead of studying Torah, he's just sitting watching the news for no purpose, because he watched them 1 hour ago already. Then he's violating a prohibition against not spending the time properly. And by doing so, he's a wicked man. A sin most difficult, this being so, we must conclude that the Benoni is not guilty even of the sin of neglecting to study Torah. A sin most difficult to avoid, encountered among those sins that people transgress daily. And now this is why Rabbi mistook himself for a Benoni, since a Benoni is innocent even of neglect of Torah study. Rabbi could mistakenly consider himself a Benoni, even though he so scrupulously observed even the most minor commandments and never ceased from his studies. Rabbi is saying, therefore, the conclusion is that Benoni is someone who had not a single sin not only not a single sin, he does not have an opportunity to forewarn or protest against someone and misses it. And more so, even a rabbinic decree, and more so, he does not waste an iota of his time, and he studied Torah every single second of his life. Yet, Rabbi, now we can understand, mistakenly say, I'm a Benoni. Because between him and a righteous, there is no big difference. In the action, you won't see a difference. They both are perfect and serving of God. We still need remain to be clarified what is a Benoni, what the difference is between a Benoni and a righteous man. And God willing, we will continue next week. Thank you so much.
Mhm.